Arr, Pirate fans! It's time to find out the state of the ship of your defending champions for the 2022 season with your hosts, Johnny Wilbur and Jake Ignaszewski. And now, brought to you by Resonate, it's the state of the ship.
Time for the state of the ship for the Massachusetts Pirates, thanks to Resonate. And Jake Ignaszewski, Johnny Wilbur back here for another week 5 of the season on tap here as the Pirates get set to play this Saturday at the DCU Center, the 23rd of April, in another big game, Jake, coming up as we get ready to go. But first, let's recap last week's game out there in Green Bay with the Blizzard. You were there. Tell us what happened. Bring us through the overtime loss. It was a tight game. Pirates led most of the first half, led throughout the first half, led throughout most of the game. Finally, a little bit of a challenge from a team late in the game, and the Pirates couldn't hold them off. Take us through what you were seeing out there in Green Bay.
So, as you mentioned, the Pirates essentially had the advantage throughout the entire game. You even really saw it in the stats other than the scoreboard. Ultimately, at the end of the game, they had more rushing yards, 51-30 against the Blizzard, passing yards, 180 to 157. And, penalties were a huge issue for the Pirates throughout this game. They had 14 for 97 yards. And then we also saw Green Bay have 3 for 21. But, a lot of those penalties really came at really critical moments. But starting off for the Pirates, starting off in the first half, Alejandro Benefield and Thomas Owens continued their automatic connection, scoring for 2 touchdowns. And, that ultimately helped the Pirates take the lead 17-3 with 8 minutes and 5 seconds left in the first half. But then, right before halftime, the Blizzard quarterback, Jack Shaheen, threw a 12-yard touchdown to receiver Keyshawn Taylor. And at halftime, it was a 7-point game, 17-10. And, it looked like, the Pirates were sort of destined to, pile on this lead going into the second half. And, we saw the third quarter be relatively quiet. The only action that we really saw was Alejandro Benefield threw another touchdown, his third to Thomas Owens. But, ultimately, we saw the offense struggle a little bit, even though you saw Benefield throw 19 completions over 29 attempts. We saw him sort of really struggle being able to throw the ball, middle down the field or deep. A lot of those passes that he really completed were relatively short, 5 to 10 yards. And, some other guys like Isaac Zico as well as Jonathan Johnson got into the action. But, it was really tough, especially once those penalties really started to pile on. It seemed like anytime the Pirates had anything going for them, there was an offensive side call, there was a holding call, there was, pass interference. And, we really saw the penalties pile up, not only offensively, but defensively as well.
That's uncharacteristic of the Pirates. So we saw that, work in their favor against the Steamwheelers and how they, they racked up a lot of penalties, and that, helped the Pirates. The Pirates have to play disciplined football. I know you talked to Coach Rayshaun about that and make sure that they get back and play more disciplined football the way that they should, especially this weekend at the DCU Center.
Right. And, when I asked him what was his assessment of the last week's loss, the first thing that he mentioned was, the penalties killed us, especially in those critical moments. He said, we need to be a lot more disciplined and smart with every single play. And, it starts with practice.
You get in what was it, overtime, 9 men on the field and an unsportsmanlike. I mean, after an interception is called back, I mean, right there, that seals the game for you. And unfortunately, it didn't. It sealed the game for the Blizzard.
Right. As you mentioned, especially going into that fourth quarter, the Pirates had a 23-10 lead. And then ultimately we saw, off of a Jack Shaheen Hail Mary pass to the end zone with 4 seconds left, the Blizzard were able to tie it. And, this has been something that as somebody who is still new to watching indoor football, it's something that I've had to get used to. Even though the Pirates scored with 10 seconds remaining off of a Martez Carter passing or receiving touchdown, excuse me. That still didn't mean that the Pirates had the game in the bag. And as I mentioned, Shaheen was able to just like throw it up to the end zone and get a Hail Mary catch off of, Khalid Wooten did what he was supposed to do. He slapped the ball to the ground to ultimately try and make the pass an incomplete. But, the Blizzard wide receiver was right there to snatch it and ultimately lead to overtime. And, as you mentioned, the Blizzard got the ball first. Jack Shaheen really led the charge down for the Blizzard to get close to the end zone. And then ultimately, Corian Ballard intercepted Shaheen. But then, as you mentioned, the Pirates were flagged for 9 men on the field and then unsportsmanlike contact penalty, which ultimately allowed Shaheen to be able to score and run the ball in to give the Blizzard the 38-31 lead. Yeah, relatively very easily.
Yeah, and then we just we get the ball, we can't do anything really with it. I think that one of the focus points going forward here, Jake, is we've talked about before in the past, is we need to get a more solid, more aggressive running game that's can kick across the goal line when needed and get those really important yards when we have to get them on the ground. And we don't want Alejandro, who's really been our leading rusher, carrying the ball as much as he has been, because if he gets hurt, we don't know where we lie with a backup quarterback. We haven't had to be there yet.
Right. And we've seen sort of defenses be accustomed to Alejandro running the ball a majority of the time. And, that really hurt the Pirates, especially when they were trying to get critical yardage at the end of that Blizzard game. There was times where Alejandro took it himself and the defense sort of knew exactly what he was going to do and stuffed them when it really mattered most. And, we did see Dietrich Thomas, who's a wide receiver and running back. He did have a few good runs. But, you got to remember, it is his first game. And, Martez Carter did just come back. Didn't really do too much on the ground. Ultimately, we saw him rush for 13 carries for only 30 yards. But he did get that very clutch receiving touchdown. But I couldn't agree more. I think the one unit that is lacking for this Pirates offense at the moment is that running game.
Yeah, because even special teams, we've been pretty good around there. Running backs and returns have been working. We've been getting good yardage out of that. We're just not getting those critical yards down in the trenches when we need them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We've seen Isaac Zico do a relatively good job returning the football. Talking to Rayshaun Kizer, he said that he thinks that's honestly where they've played the best is the returning game. And, specifically something that we saw Jack Shaheen, the Blizzard quarterback, do a really good job of is being able to throw deep down the field. And, even though the Pirates got some really good pressure on him, we saw Kobe Kwanzaa come up with, 8 solo tackles, including 1 sack. We also saw Deshaun Downey get in the backfield multiple times. It seemed like Shaheen looked relatively comfortable back there to be able to throw it easily down the field. And what we saw, what was so strong for the Pirates leading IFL defense last season was the defensive back unit was just so strong, and their secondary was just locked down and wouldn't allow any wide receivers to be able to get any meaningful yardage. And that just wasn't the case in this one for the Pirates defense. And that's something, especially with head coach Rayshaun Kizer, not only being the head coach, defensive coordinator, but also the secondary coach. That's something that he mentioned that they're definitely planning to work on very heavily in this week of practice.
Now, the good thing is, Jake, it's a long season. It's only the first loss. So we're 3-1 going into week 5 of our schedule. And no rest for the wicked, though. They got to get right back at it. The good thing is, again, we can still sign players here and there. So then that's one of the great things about the IFL is you do have a lot of opportunity as you go along, as the season goes along. Some guys maybe get a little bit healthier that weren't playing, and now they have that opportunity to be able to come in and show what they have. And so we can make a few signings. We can continue to get better and try and make some improvements. I don't want to say I called the trap game last week, but I kind of did. And I wonder if some of this was, getting up in the first half and, knowing that this team is 0-4 coming in and thinking that, hey, they aren't really anything. And they kind of, punched him in the mouth with it. And maybe that's a good thing. That can never, as long as it doesn't lead to multiple losses, I think sometimes that can be a good thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it will give this team an extra charge of motivation going into this
Sure.
next game on Saturday against the Barnstormers, especially looking at the Barnstormers are on a 3-game winning streak currently. The Pirates in Iowa have the same exact record at 3-1. They're both tied for the lead in the East Conference. And I think going into this game, you saw from the reaction of the players, this loss hurt, especially with it coming right at the end. Especially on the bench, it felt like a win with 10 seconds left. But as you know, in the Indoor Football League, until those 3 zeros hit, the game is not over. And I think
it's got to be a long plane. It's got to be a long plane ride home from Wisconsin with a team after a loss like that.
Yeah, guys were just really excited and determined to get back to work on the practice field to prepare for this game on Saturday. And speaking with some of the players, they just wanted to put last game behind them. Obviously learn from it, learn from some of the mistakes, but not allow the loss to really define this team and really take too much time to be down on it. They're just really focused on preparing for this next game against the Barnstormers.
Yeah, this team was 3-0 going in, but the veterans on this team were 14-0 on a 14-game winning streak. So that I'm sure they take that a little bit more serious. And the captains, Alejandro, and the rest of them are going to get back in that practice squad and back in the practice field and really work that much harder this week. Now, speaking of this week against the Barnstormers, coming in 3-1, and like you said, currently on that game winning streak. I think that's good motivation for the Pirates. Big win last week. They're scoring a lot of points right now. Our defense has to be really solid this week and hold the Barnstormers.
Yeah, especially against Iowa's quarterback DJ Peterson. He's a guy who, in total offense, leads the league with 180 yards per outing. He's another person who we've seen time and time again be a dual threat quarterback. The Pirates have a lot of experience with those types of quarterbacks, but we saw them have a little bit of trouble being able to handle and hold down Drew Campbell of the Bismarck Bucks. We saw him get out of the pocket multiple times, use his legs to gain yardage, and so the Pirates' defensive front is definitely going to have to be on their toes with DJ Peterson. He has the ability to not only hurt you with his legs, but also with his arm. Looking at some of the really good wide receivers, Kentrez Bell he has 8 receptions for 140 yards and 4 touchdowns. And, I think that with how efficient this offense has been, especially, looking at the Pirates offense as well, we could really see this be an offensive showdown, sort of what we thought it was going to be with Quad City coming into this one. But I think Iowa's a much better team than Quad City ultimately is. And so I think that this is going to be a little bit of a tough game for the Pirates, but I think with that extra motivation after last week's loss, I think that they're destined for a win.
Yeah, I agree with that, Jake. Coming home to the DCU Center and now being the only team left playing in Worcester, in the DCU Center, at least, other than the Woo Sox, who are down the road a bit in baseball season. The Railers get knocked out of the playoffs this week, and a lot of those Railer fans are looking for something to do, and they can all come out to the DCU Center in Phoenix Field this Saturday night for a 7:00 kickoff. Going to be a great. It's going to be another great event. It's an event in itself, and we love to invite everybody out there. It's the Massachusetts Pirates. Come from all around, and you Connecticuters and you Rhode Islanders, you can come up here too and enjoy some football.
Exactly, and it's going to be a lot of fun, especially this next week. We got some fun theme nights It was Worcester Spirit Night as well as Scout Night as well. So, there's going to be a lot of really fun festivities for this Barnstormers game. And also the first 500 fans in the building get a free 2022 magnet schedule. So then exactly when the Pirates will be at the DCU Center. And, you mentioned that now that the Railers are out, the Pirates actually have an opportunity this week to practice at Phoenix Field. I think that's going to be so
huge difference too.
Huge difference. And I talked a little bit of that with head coach Kizer, and he mentioned being able to be at their home field is so critical, especially during practice, being able to practice with the boards, practice with the lines of the field, and actually be able to have real situations, not the place that they practice at right now is in Rhode Island at Dome Bubble. It's great for some good off-season work, but especially when you're trying to win a championship and win every single week, it's really nice to be at your home field and be able to actually fix some of these mistakes that we saw hurt them back in Green Bay.
Well, we can't wait to see everybody out at the DCU Center this Saturday night. I'll be there. Jake will be there. I won't look quite as good as you, Jake, but I'll be having just as much fun, that's for sure. Come on out, and I'm working on one of the future games, having a chicken wing eating contest at midfield with one of the great sponsors that we work with, one of the great smokehouses out here in Blackstone, Massachusetts. So we'll have more information about that and more. Make sure you tune into the podcast. Jake, how do we do it every week? You tell me.
So if you have not yet, it's on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, really wherever you listen to your podcast, you can find the State of the Pirate Ship available. We post a podcast episode every single week, keeping you updated about everything that is going on with the team. Most weeks when games are going on, we usually post recaps and previews of each game. But we mix in some interviews as well from players, front office representatives, coaching staff. We're going to start to pick some of those up later in the season and also soon as well. So definitely make sure to subscribe to the State of the Pirate Ship on whatever audio platform that you're listening to. Also on YouTube, because we post the video version over there, and you get to see John and I's beautiful faces every single week. But we're so excited for this barn. Exactly. We're so excited for this Barnstormers game coming up. As I mentioned, both teams are 3-1. So this is going to be a very highly contested game. Whoever wins this game is going to have the lead in the East Conference. And even though we're only 5 games in, this will be the 5th game of the season for each team. It still matters on who is on that leaderboard, not only for the end of the season in terms of playoffs, but also for the motivation of each team going into every single week. So make sure to tune into the State of the Pirate Ship every single week, and we can't wait to continue to keep you guys updated.